Okay, so it's 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Um, Kayla, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to see if we had a good size to start or wait. I'm not sure how many
Battery
people you're expecting.
100%. Connect.
So we're good to start? We have,
I think so. It looks like we have 16 people now.
okay. All right, sounds good.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right. Yep, we have find a number. Good morning, everyone. Hello. And welcome to our workshop today. My name is Gifty Oduro Ostrander. I'm a senior business advisor at the Stony Brook SBDC. Welcome again to the workshop. And thank you to our speaker, Frank Corrao of Active Web Group, for presenting for us today. It's going to be an engaging presentation on this fast-changing world of AI. We're going to learn a lot today. We're going to learn how to optimize our website for real results. Our presenter will uncover proven strategies for driving traffic and turning clicks into sales. He'll walk us through the essential elements every website needs and highlight the most effective ways to boost conversions and maximize your online success. So first, we'll give a little background about our presenter, Frank Corrao, this morning. He's a senior digital strategist and marketing manager at Active Web Group, and he brings a wealth of cross-disciplinary expertise to his team. With more than 15 years of experience shaping brand voices and visual identities across a wide range of industries, Frank has developed a deep understanding of strategic marketing, digital engagement, design, and branding. He's driven by a passion for continuous learning and innovation, and he leads the teams for SEO, paid search, and social media at his company. He's deeply committed to collaboration and believes that the most effective outcomes are achieved through teamwork. So that is great. First, I'd like to just give a little background about our services here at the SBDC. We offer free and confidential one-on-one counseling for a wide range of businesses, both for startups and established businesses. Even if you have an idea, you don't have a business, it's just an idea, and you want to explore it to see if it's got potential, by all means, please give us a call. We'll be able to assist and take the journey with you. Do not hesitate to call us if you have any business questions at all. I'll give a few areas in which we provide counseling. It includes certification and procurement, business planning, access to capital, industry research, financial planning, marketing, international trade, technology development, the list goes on and on. So yes, we cover a wide range of areas, and by all means, feel free to contact us if you need assistance. We'll share information on how to make an appointment with us in the chat, so you have that information handy if you need to give us a call. We also kindly ask that you hold questions till the end. You can write them in the chat or feel free to raise your hand during the Q&A session. So without much further ado, we are going to turn this presentation over to Frank. Thank you, Frank.
All right, fantastic. Good morning, everybody. My name is Frank Corrao, again, Digital Marketing Manager at Active Web Group. Yes, hold questions to the end. You can put them in the chat if you want, or you can raise your hand. We're going to speed through the whole world of digital marketing and your website and branding. So this is a big chunky presentation, but I'll try to get through it as coherently as I can. All right, let me share my screen. And Gifty, my mom's last name is Ostrander. So maybe, all right, let me share my screen. All right. Nope, no, don't want to do that. One second. All right. Okay. So again, my name is Frank Corrao, Active Web Group, activewebgroup.com. And there were already a couple questions about how to get in touch with me. You don't have to light any candles or anything. You could go fcorrao at activewebgroup.com or go to Active Web Group and fill out the form. I'll put my contact information again once we're done, but I also believe it's in the footer somewhere on this presentation. All right. So this is how to get seen digitally, improve your website reach, and get results, right? All right, so let's go back to the Stone Age, right? During the dinosaur era here, we had tangible marketing, or what I call tangible marketing, right? That's your trifold brochure, your business card that you would give to the barbershop, and it would sit in the corner and collect dust, or you'd do a town crier ad, right, or a billboard on the side of the road. That all worked great. However, with the advent of digital technology, and as we continue to grow potential platforms digitally, we have more avenue for results, right? And at a cheaper return rate, right? So before I would have to spend $5,000 to get on the back cover of the local town crier. That would put me there for a week. However, it's hard to ascertain ROI. It always was. What's my return on investment from said marketing campaign I did tangibly? Unless you had some way to, nowadays you do QR codes, right? But it used to be a lot harder to be able to track those efforts, which inherently you'll learn as we go through this presentation. If you don't know where your leads and sales are coming from, there's no point to doing whatever you're doing. That's what makes digital marketing great. Every nuance or every little piece or nugget of things with the proper tracking in place, you can figure out where every single lead came from, what qualifies and turns into a sale, and then stack your marketing play appropriately. I'm going to go through all that. We're going to crawl here and talk about websites and branding first, which is a little bit more elementary, and then we'll kind of grow from there. All right. So I always say when you first start out here and you are saying, okay, I need to start marketing, I need to start marketing digitally. What should I do? How should I go about it? The first thing you have to do is define your target audience, right? Who is your target audience? Is it a mom who's a homemaker who has maybe 3 kids with a disposable income of over $100,000 a year, right? Is it somebody who is more affluent, who is a decision maker at an executive level? And again, if you're an executive, if you're on that level where you're a decision maker and you're trying to reach said decision maker, then there are certain platforms that you could go to versus if you're trying to get the let's call millennial new mom, right? That would maybe you'd be targeting Instagram, things of that nature. Whereas if you're targeting the CEO, you'd be more LinkedIn. Maybe you're doing Bing MSN ads because that's the entire professional world most of it still runs off of a Windows computer. So you would be able to chop it up right then and there for what you should look for platform strategically. But the first step here is defining your target audience, and then doing the good old fashioned who, what, when, where, why, how. Why is my product important in the market space? Where do I see it existing? When is it used, or when is my service perceived to be used? What is it for? Who is it for? Once you're able to define and answer all these questions, we can then move on. Now, I always come up with a target demographic persona as well. And again, some of this sounds a little small, but we're going to build upon this. So every little piece here is important. So as I said before, I'm looking for somebody who is an executive who has a disposable income of over $1 million a year, who manages or runs a company with over 50 employees in the fintech space, right? Or again, looking for that millennial mom, new mom, because I have products to sell to her. So you have to start to define your audience. And there is an audience for everybody, I will say. Whether you're an emergency response plumber, you're looking for somebody with potentially an older home who might be a newer homeowner who doesn't have who isn't inept enough to fix plumbing issues, right? Someone who maybe has multiple toilets, things of that nature. Whereas if, of course, you are somebody looking for C-suite, you have defined goals there. Now, the next thing I do after I've defined audience and figured out who and what I am in the market space is I'm going to work on my KPIs, my key performance indicators, right? And these are measurable factors that tie into your business goals, right? For me, a phone call is the most important thing as an emergency response plumber. Nobody is going to fill out a form on my website and wait while their toilet's backing up. They're going to call my phone at 2 o'clock in the morning and tell me all about it. So in that case, my main KPI, my main goal is how many phone calls did I get? Then I could say how many forms did I get, because I get secondary work from that. So you have to decide from a tactical web standpoint. We're now kind of switching to only talking about web. What are my key performance indicators? It might be a download. If someone downloads a white paper, right, or some type of e-paper. Might be if someone, again, clicks on the phone call, or I could have tracking in place so I can listen to those calls, like a Corrao or something to that degree. But form submission is important. Email might be certain pages if they land on certain pages, right? So you have to figure out what your measurable goals are related to your digital efforts. From doing that, you could assign them a priority from 1, 2, 3, 1 being the most important, let's say 3 being not as important in terms of conversion. From there, we can move on to the next step. All right. So your website as a whole being visual, right? This is where I find there's a lot of missteps, because there's a lot of tools out there now to build websites, and not all are created equally, depending on who you are. So if you're somebody going after Fortune 500 companies, probably shouldn't have a Wix site. No offense to Wix. If you're somebody who's just starting out, you're building a small portfolio for your photography business on the side. All right, we want to keep capital low. We could look for something that's more of a pre-built CMS, which might be something like a Wix. You just have to be careful with some of those solutions because they have bloated backends. And the more bloated the backend, the CMS, which makes it easier to design and develop, it also makes it more tricky for it to rank inherently in Google, just because it's a larger, more bloated site. All right, so websites designed to sell here. So the first thing I consider when going and thinking about building a website is my brand. And everyone thinks about brand, they think about their cute logo. It's your logo, but it's more than that. It's your voice. How do you go about your vocabulary or your copy on your site? Is it sarcastic? Are you coming off as an authority figure? Are you somebody who is speaking in large sentences because you have a lot to say? Or are you somebody who's able to fragment stuff and speak very simplistically, right? So the way in which, as you would carry yourself in the real world, you have to make sure your vocabulary matches your brand. You don't want to be, hey, yo, and then you're a dentist office, right? That probably is not going to work. Or you're a law firm who deals with corporations. But if you're someone who's dealing with in the teen market, or your brand where you sell shirts and hats, that might work for your lifestyle brand. So you have to be able to define your vocabulary. That's usually the first step. Then, of course, you think about your design ecosystem, my brand logo. What colors am I using for my logo? I'm going to go over that in a second. What typography am I using? I'm going to go over that as well. How do I treat imagery, right? All images have somebody who's facing the camera or facing away always, right? There's always one person. You could do a highlighted for life thing where everything's black and gray except for the actual product someone's holding. I've seen that happen at times. Right. Then you think about your perception in the market space, right? Your trustworthiness. Is this a trustworthy brand? Do I get perceived being trustworthy? And that starts to lead to ORM, online reputation management, which is your profiles of the world, which I usually find are secondary when brands start to think about this stuff. And it's a runaway train and it's too late, especially if you're like a restaurant and you have those couch critics who come in, then they give you 1 star because the hostess had a late night or something. That is all part of your brand ecosystem. So you have to be looking at all the exit points here. All right, the 10 commandments here, and again, we're going to crawl here and we're going to pick up and talk about digital marketing, but this all kind of stacks on itself. The 10 commandments of logo design really are very simple. Boiling this down, you want to be as simplistic as possible. You want to have a couple of simple colors that work and pop, right? You don't want to have 40 colors. You don't want to have shadows and outlines. Outlines are a huge no-no in anything, whether it's typography or your logo. When you have to outline something, usually that means it's a contrast issue, right? So instead of making it black, make it white. So you want what I call a modular logo, something you could take the masthead on it. In this case, it's this little this cupcake here, right? You want to take that masthead, you want to break it apart from the typography. You want to be able to stack it. You want to be able to put it side to side, and that now makes it responsive when we think about web design, right? And you want to be able to do that so you respond or adapt, which I'll get into what that means. But you'll be able to respond or adapt to certain technology, whether it be an iPad, an iPhone, whatever you're using, desktop versus laptop, the screen resolution, right? And then secondly, you want to do the good old art school gimmick where you put the thing up on the wall, you stand 10 feet back and see if it reads, right? You're going to find when there's too much crap on the logo, it's just not going to read properly. So you want to keep it simple. Keeping it simple will help you. You want this to look good on a postage stamp, but you want it to look good on a billboard on the side of the building too. So you want to be able to make your logo look good no matter what. And then think about where the logo is going to live. Are you a emergency response plumber, as I said, and then it's going to be embroidered on your T-shirt, on your polo shirt when you go to Mrs. Jones's house? Is it going to live on the side of the truck? Is it going to be in a little business card? How are you going to treat this thing? So you need to consider that as well. And then I find, which is, again, I'm a digital marketer here, I find that people don't think about their digital efforts when thinking about making a logo. They make this really cute thing that just doesn't translate good digitally. So you have to consider how that's going to live on things like email marketing, how it's going to live on the footer of my emails I'm going to be sending out, how it's going to live, of course, as the masthead of the website, how it's going to look on a mobile device. So you need to consider those things as well. Okay, and then thinking about colors here. There's a lot of colors to consider when you're thinking about your logo. The colors are going to stack up and play an important role in web design shortly, spoiler alert. But thinking about your colors, what colors should I use? You know, if you're someone who is optimistic, something like a yellow. If you work with children, there's of course a reason why Nickelodeon uses orange, right? If you're someone who's peaceful, earthy, John Deere green, right? So if you are a law firm, what color should you use here, you think? It's really going to depend on what your market is, right? And as I said, let's go back some slides to see how this is all stacking up on each other. If I'm somebody who works in child law, I spend a lot of time dealing with, families, parents, etc. I might want to be a little bit more friendly, right? I could maybe go in orange with some of that stuff. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to see the law firm will use blue. But again, you have to take that with your audience. Okay. All right. Now let's start to go down the rabbit hole of digital marketing. Again, there's a lot of components here, and I'm trying to give you as many as possible. So digital marketing is always going to start with and end with a great website. So from the moment someone engages with your brand, they're going to do that digitally. So you're going to want to put your best foot forward there. They're going to find you when searching for something. I'm searching for emergency response plumbers near me. Great. Google that. You were the first one that came up, whether it be an ad or that you're paying for, cost per click, CPC, or it's something that you just came up organically through great SEO efforts. So I showed up number one against my competition. I clicked on that link, which brought me to the website. I did not know the brand that I'm engaging with. It's the first time. Maybe I'm looking at the reviews, ORM online reputation management. Maybe I'm going and looking at the website as a whole. So again, there's a lot of different avenues here. But in terms of the website, it's going to start with the website. Then it's going to lead to your content, your SEO, your paid marketing strategy, your social media. How do I get conversions? And then what do I do to set conversions in the database or the CRM, right? From the CRM, am I doing email marketing? Am I doing elongated nurture marketing? So again, everything's going to start with your brand. You're going backwards. Who am I marketing to? What am I marketing to? What am I? And then we're here with the website. All right. So thinking about the website as well, you want to think about hierarchy. A good example of this is right here. This is my headline, which in SEO terms is my H1 tag. Then I have my sub, my body copy, right? When I think about my headlines, I want them to be short and punchy and sweet and really engage and get to the point. Getting to the point is something I find a lot of people, a lot of business owners just don't do very well. They're not able to boil down who they are, what they're about, and why buy. The why as quickly as they can. And then they have mountains and mountains of copy or things that just don't make sense. What I call above the fold, which is when you first land on a website versus below the fold when you have to scroll down. Okay. Now thinking about that in terms of hierarchy, in terms of conversion points, right? This is something that's above the fold here. You think about your logo. You want to have your CTA, your call to action, really strong. So in this case, it's a phone number, right? You think about imagery. What imagery am I going to use? I want to have a form above the fold so people don't have to scroll around on the site. They'll just have the form right then and there. Other things I note is if you have a lot of conversion, if you have every page on the website, let's say this, every page on your website should have a form submission, should have, if you're an e-commerce site, should have a way of getting to said e-commerce area, whether it be shop by category, shop most popular products. That's not a mistake. There's a reason why they do that in modern UX. Okay, and the same is true with putting form submission on every single page, whether it be a blog post, whether it be your homepage, whether it be your about my team, etc. You always need to have that at the bottom, and at the top, you always want to have a conversion anchor point there so people can get there. What is the point of the website, us as business owners here? It's to sell. It's to sell us, to sell our services, our products. It's not so people go to a cute website and engage with it and then X out, which tends to happen when you don't have conversion points. All right. A good example here is my lovely active web group site, near and dear to my heart. We think about colors, right? I told you about colors and playfulness and trustworthy and all that. So we have a trustworthy and a playful balance about ourselves. You can tell by the way I'm speaking and some of the things I say, some of the funny things I say, that's a little bit playful. But I'm also trustworthy here in some of the things I'm telling you. That follows through to the brand, right? Now you look at the colors, that matches. We're looking at the way color guides you, the rule of thirds in design. If anyone here is a brand designer, you have this right in the logo, the orange, that is now leading you to our CTA button, the work with us. Then it's leading you below the page to contact us, where I have my form submission right then and there. Then I have my phone click, right? More people are going to fill out a form than call me, so that I want to make sure my form is good. Whereas, again, emergency response plan, more people are probably going to call, so I probably want to swap those CTAs. And this is even before you get anywhere on the site. We're a full service digital marketing agency. Here's a quick form, connect with us. Great, I got everything I needed right then without having to go through 5 pages of the website and make it complicated, which is what you want to do when building your website, regardless of whether you do something crazy in the aerospace industry or you sell really cool hats. Same thing, you want to be as simple as possible. Get to the point. All right, now a responsive website here. And as you see in this example, we have the rule of thirds to color. And then I have a little nugget here that's above the fold to make me want to scroll down, which is delicious. I love that. But if you follow here with the responsive website, what a responsive website does is it adapts to the technology, right? So it has all the elements. It's simply adapting. Now, when you look at the mobile iteration, there's what's called a hamburger menu, we call it. And that has those 3 lines, and it condenses the menu so you don't see the menu. Right? It's responding to that and condensing some information, but all of the information is still there. I don't ever want to see anyone's website where they have the desktop version and then there's a hamburger menu. There's no need for that. One, for crawl SEO purposes. You don't want to hide any information from bots that are going to crawl your site. But secondly, why complicate things and hide things on a desktop computer when you have all this space? It's like living on 100 acres of land, but having a little studio barn there, and not using any of the land. Use the real estate here that we have, right? Okay. Then you have more adaptive websites that are going to adapt, right? So adaptive websites are going to adapt to the technology, right? My website is adaptive. It's not responsive. It does respond, of course, responds by being adaptive, so to speak. So adaptive wise, we're stripping out information for the other iteration. So here's my desktop version. Here's my mobile version, right? Where it strips out, it gets rid of that image altogether. There's no little cute image with a gear. We have clients in that space. Doesn't have that. It gets right to the point. We're going to put the form, tell you what we're about. Click and find some of our stuff. Gets rid of all that information. You also see we have an ADA compliance, which you should have on your site. You should be ADA compliant. And we also have the terms and conditions for GDPR, California Privacy Act, which of course you all should have on your site as well. If you don't, definitely reach out. You're likely to get sued at some point given your traffic patterns. But anyway, back to this. So I'm stripping out information to make it load quicker on a mobile device. You might not want to do that for various reasons. You might want to put a cute video on your website that explains in the hero, right? The hero is this, above the fold, the image you're going to use. We call that a hero image. You might want to use a video specifically for those purposes. However, when you think about a mobile device, if I have a cute little video that loads, it's going to slow down the computer, the website like all hell. So I might want to strip that out and make my website adaptive and adapt to the technology rather than just respond to it. All right. Now that we got all that on there, we know we know who we are, what we are, why buy, all that fun stuff. We've defined our target audience and maybe our secondary audience, so we know who we're going after, who we're marketing to. We've looked at our brand, and our brand is ready to roll. It looks great, and then we've built a great website following the best practices, rule of thirds, color hierarchy. We've put our best foot forward in terms of our messaging. So again, everybody understands who we are. Now we're saying, okay, well, it's great. We don't have anyone going to our website. We got no traffic, or the traffic we get is minimal. We got direct traffic maybe, which is people going to the www. So in this case, people go to activewebgroup.com. They didn't search digital marketing near me or whatever. How do I build ancillary traffic and how do I get customers? Okay, it all starts with analytics, Google Analytics, right? There are a lot of analytical tools. If you have Shopify, Shopify has its own analytics. Good old Meta, Mark Zuckerberg has his own little great analytical metrics that he uses. If you're a restaurant, there's Toast, Bento, all those. They have really good reporting strings. However, I find that they're all inaccurate. Sometimes when you're running ads in Meta, it's going to say you got 50,000 impressions and you got 5,000 clicks. And then when you go and you look in the back end of your CMS or Google Analytics, it only says you got 30 clicks. That could be a misattribution, but more than likely, it's the numbers are inflated. So I always use Google Analytics, and I always make sure my tracking parameters are proper, so I understand by platform where they came from. Now, we're running into some issues with the GDPR, the California Privacy Act, where and what you can do with stored data. It's making it a little bit more tricky sometimes to track things. And you're finding that there's more unknown traffic. There's more referral traffic that's not actually referral traffic. But 90% there still. And there are ways around that as well. It's not the purpose of this meeting. But long story short, you should be using Google Analytics to properly track where your users are coming from. Working backwards here, when I said in the beginning of time, you need to have some type of analytical reporting or tracking. If you don't even bother. X out of this meeting and go about your day. You need to really make sure you have proper reporting and data in place. So this way you could start to strategize. You really start to play chess and say, okay, I know it's working. I know it's not working. Maybe I want to double down on something, or maybe I need to work harder at a different platform that I'm not currently working at. All right, so what are channels? I keep using this word channels. Channels are where users came from. Platforms is what they used to call them when it was tangible marketing and you're talking about your catalog and all that, your mail piece. Now it's channels. So we have our direct, which is people going to the www.com. For example, I went to activewebgroup.com. Is that really a digital marketing effort? Probably not. It's not something I report on and I'm all excited about. It's probably you shook a hand, you got a business card, you saw the logo on the side of a truck with the URL, something to that degree. So I can't fully count that as my effort. Organic SEO. Can I count this? Yes, absolutely. So this is people organically searching for something. Emergency response plumbers near me, long tail keyword, or just emergency response plumber. I came up organically in the search. I clicked on that, and that's how the conversion event happened. I relate that to my SEO efforts. Paid, so paid marketing. I'm paying to play. PPC, Google Ads, MSN, those types of things. Social media. So you have your organic social media where you're just posting on various platforms. And then you have your ads, which you're paying to play. So it could be both organic and paid on the social side. You have your referral traffic, which comes from other websites. Other websites meaning backlinks, which also helps your domain authority. Not going to go too deep into that, but your domain authority is something that's vital for your SEO efforts. Now, referral comes from various sites. It could come from a friend up the block who has a business and is putting a link on my site and vice versa. It could come from a listing. It could come from a chamber of commerce. It could come from a directory of various sources, but that's referral traffic. Anything that comes from another website that got clicked and referred. And then you have your email marketing, which is pretty self-explanatory. I'm running my email blasts. People are clicking through. Text message marketing, SMS, push to click, and that all kind of falls for me in line with email marketing. All right, so important metrics to know. There are tons and tons of things you could pull and ascertain from Google Analytics, right? But my sessions and users, these are the amount of users coming to the website. So I had 50 users and those 50 users did 100 sessions, right? So on average, my users are doing 2 sessions. They're visiting the site twice, and those are my new and returning visitors. What is my bounce rate? My bounce rate, how many people bounce off that site? I said earlier, when we're looking at websites, you have your video, right, that you put there, the cute little video, your teaser video above the fold. I kept it there on a mobile device. My site didn't load, so I noticed my bounce rate is super high. It's like 90% on mobile. Something I learned when looking at the traffic patterns in Google Analytics. I saw that the bounce rate was high on mobile. I can maybe start to say, okay, I can make a correlation that, well, it's probably my site speed and people are getting frustrated. Nowadays, people wait 1 second. People used to wait 10 seconds plus. If you think back 15 plus years ago, how long they would wait for something to load on a mobile device, right? Nowadays, it's very quick. If it doesn't happen instantaneously, they're going to bounce off and go to a competitor. We don't want them to bounce off and go to a competitor. We want them to engage with us, our brand, stay here on site, make a conversion, call us, fill out a form, buy something. In order to do that, we need to make sure our bounce rate is low. Average page load time, which inherently affects your bounce rate. So how long does it take for the site to load? And that's also going to impact your SEO. If Google can't crawl the site next time, they're going to rank you lower than your competitor. Organic versus paid. This should now be inherently obvious, but we talked about this. I'm paying for acquisition versus I'm organically getting acquisition. And then top landing pages may be of importance too. I find when I get a lot of websites that come to me and they want to start marketing and branding, they want to do SEO, they want to do pay-per-click, maybe their About Us page ranks really well, or some of their team members. Why do you think that is? Because they just write a lot about themselves and they accidentally put some keywords in there that they end up ranking for weird things like Honda cars, and they sell generators or something. So you need to be aware of what you're saying and what landing pages people are visiting and how they get to landing page. If they're getting to anchor landing page from your SEO efforts, well, you have those page ranking, as I said, that might be a problem for you. And then if you see that in your top landing pages, you don't have conversion events. We talked about this earlier, where I don't have a form submission. I don't have a call button. I have no information about how you get in touch with us. And my average sessions per user is only 1 session. My average page is 1 page. Well, they're going to X out after they get to the about, and you're not getting the conversion event. So you're leaving money on the table. So all this information I can stack up and start to think about who I am, what I need to do, right? You'd also see it by operating system, different technology. Are more people coming to a mobile device versus my website versus my desktop version of my website? If you find you're getting more users that visit through the Bing network, right? Maybe as I said, you work business to business. Most people Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, right? The decision maker is going to be sitting at the desk staring at the computer. A lot of the business world, I'm talking to you on a MacBook Pro using Google Chrome, but I'm an outlier. Most of the business world still works off of a Windows PC, and the default browser will probably be MSN Bing. So since all my sessions come from there, that tells the right story. However, I'm running ads on Google. That makes sense. Maybe I need to be running ads in MSN Bing as well to cover my angles here. So again, as I said, looking at all the platforms and then trying to ascertain where to spend your money, this starts to play a vital role. All right, now SEO. Let's get into some platforms here. What is SEO? It's a magic pill that people swallow. It's that sign on the telephone poles as you're driving through, let's say, the Hauppauge Industrial Park where we're at, that says, "What is egress? Get to #1 in Google tomorrow," which is a complete lie. They're just going to bill your credit card. But what is SEO? It's not a magic pill. Okay, SEO, search engine optimization. It's figuring out your defined keywords that your target audience, who we defined much earlier, is going to be looking for. What are they going to be looking for? You figure that out. What are they going to be inherently searching for? You look at your competition, what they're ranking for. You look at the search volume of said keywords. And once you figure out and came up with a list of keywords, figure out where you're ranking, which most times if you're not doing much, you're not going to be ranking well. But you figure out where you're ranking, and then you come up with a strategy. So that's your content on site, right? Your links, your backlinks for domain authority purposes, your blog for a couple of reasons. What we're finding now, search has changed in the past 3 months. If I would have given this presentation, or I would have given you just a organic SEO presentation of how to rank, or what is SEO, I would have said stuff a little differently than I am today with the launch of Gemini through Google, ChatGPT and some of the other search AI engines, things are changing very quickly. So now what we're doing is we're working on more authority-based content. We're working on more FAQ style stuff because people are looking for more information. And that's essentially what something like ChatGPT is going to crawl. We're looking at third-party sites like Reddit to try to get anchored in there. So strategically, things have definitely changed. But your blog will help you become an authority figure depending on what you're writing about. Your HTML, that's your titles, tags, meta description. I talked about an H1 tag, which is your main tag that Google's going to look at. There better be a keyword there. If there's not, it's a waste of time. You think about your overall marketing play and objective. What other third-party sites am I on? You're looking at your pay-per-click if you're running that program, because if you are not, Google doesn't think you rank for emergency response plumbers, or you're not one because you're not trying for that keyword, you're going to pay more per click. And your ad quality score might be low, which impacts when your ads get shown. Your popularity, that's your domain authority. The design of the website, how fast is the website on a mobile device? Google likes fast sites. Google likes sites that are updated constantly. They don't like the site that sits for a long time, except for those old homepage ones that were built, at the dawn of the internet in the early 2000s. But most sites nowadays, if they're not being refreshed, it's harder to rank. And then that comes with your overall strategy, your overarching marketing strategy. All right. Now, the key steps in getting found for your audience, right, is, as I said, it's the same exact as when we started. We do our website analysis, right? We look at all the websites that have certain terms that we're trying to rank for and look for. Then we do our competitor audit. We're looking at, from a organic standpoint, where do people rank? What are they ranking for? Does it make sense in my ecosystem to try to rank for that? We have identified those keywords and where we could put the targeting into our website, the front end and the back end, right? On page and off page is what we call. We're working on a content strategy that's elongated, right? It's not just we do it once and forget it. We have to continually be pumping out content, right? With SEO, organically, you want to be your bodybuilder. You want to continue to grow your chest. So it's not like you're going to bench 225 once and then that's it, you're good to go. You have to continue to work at it. And the same is true with SEO. You need to continually build pages, make structural changes. You're going to have what's called Google Search Console, where Google is going to tell you, okay, well, your site, this is broken this month. You have a lot of 404 errors, or you get a lot of 500 errors, which are hard errors. You need to redirect pages. So there's always things to be doing. Your overall website optimization, so looking at it as a whole. Then I'm looking at my website submissions, my form submissions. Am I getting more form submissions? Am I tracking it properly? Is there not good tracking? You need to consider that. Your link building, your CLB, your custom link building, so the links that come from other websites, and of course the inbound links on your website. And then reporting, we're going to do a monthly audit or a quarterly audit, depending on what it is. We're going to do a keyword gap analysis. We're going to run our general reporting to see what our source reporting is defined, and how many conversion events I got by source. And then we're going to start it all over again from an SEO perspective. All right, now pay-per-click, right? Pay-per-click is quite a bit different, but it's the same. You have keywords, you write ads. There's different types of ads. There's these general ads, which we find has the best conversion. There's in-market ads, those are the ones that appear on third-party websites. They may have a place, right? If you're in a heavy tourist destination and you own a restaurant, you want to get seen for people who are visiting, you might want to do an in-market ad on certain travel websites when people are YouTubing things, which is also inherently a search engine and also owned by Google. But you may want to run ads for travel under travel videos that people are watching. So pay-per-click, again, various areas. It's very straightforward in terms of what is it? You're paying for a click, right? There's also the pay per conversion, which is called an LSA ad, a local service ad. There are certain areas like law firms, the emergency response plumber would fall into it, electricians, carpenters, roofers, certain other areas. I think hair salons fall into that. But you have local service ads where instead of paying per click, so I'm paying 50 cents per click, right? It takes me 100 clicks to get one conversion. So that conversion inherently cost me $50 because it took 50 clicks to get one conversion at 50 cents a click. Does it make sense for me to spend $50 per conversion? You're going to have to figure that out for yourself, thinking about your COGS, your cost of goods, or cost of service. So, I own that emergency response plumber company. Costs my average job when I have to wake up at 2 a.m. to fix a backed up toilet is about $5,000. I paid $50 for that click. I paid little Jimmy to $200 to get in his truck and do the job, and then I had $100 in parts. So yeah, for like $350 to make $5,000, there's a lot of meat on that bone. That makes sense. However, if I sold hats and shirts and the average order value was $70, my cost of goods on the $7 was $45. Does it make sense for you to spend $50 per conversion? No, it does not. Restaurants too, very thin margins. The average ticket is, I'm sitting down at a restaurant, it's $100 for a couple to have a dinner. Does it make sense to spend $50 for that conversion? Also, probably not. But there are other places you could market too outside of, when I'm talking about Google and other places. MSN is a good example, right? There's not as many people running ads at MSN, and you find the 9 to 5 crowd there because their PC is locked from the IT company that they have to use Bing, right? So you got to look at all the exit points here. Email marketing. Email marketing is great. It's one of my favorites aside from SEO. Email marketing is usually one of the top in terms of return on investment, right? People are filling out forms. You have a captive audience now. You're using your CRM and you're sending out great nurture marketing. What I find where people miss the boat is one, they have poorly designed emails that look like a career fair. There are certainly best practices. You don't want to send an email with a subject that has all dollar signs or something like that. That's going to go in the spam box. You don't want to have a heavy image driven email that just has imagery and needs to have some kind of copy. Usually it's like a 50-50 rule. You want to have a great headline, a great navigation where you have your logo and then maybe have a mini navigation with the most important elements on your website. Maybe have a phone call or a click to convert button right there. Then you get into the body, the subject of the email. You have a really good footer. So it looks good. It's like a micro website. You've seen good emails. You've seen bad ones. You've seen good subjects and you've seen bad subjects that just make you keep scrolling. You have to figure out for you what makes sense and what matches your brand vocabulary. That's going back to the beginning of this presentation about brand vocabulary. So with email, there's a lot of systems. Some are based on your CMS. Some are based on your CRM, what you're using, like Klaviyo, Pardot, etc. Some are just email magnets alone, like MailChimp, Constant Contacts. Again, it's going to be what works best for your digital ecosystem there. I'm big into if it communicates from one system to another, it's great for me. You think about automation and then you think about AI automation, which was a whole separate presentation if you missed that. But what can I do to simplify my job here? The other thing I feel people miss a lot is they do really good at marketing emails. So Black Friday, save 50%. I got my Cyber Monday email out. And I'm sitting there in my chair and I did it. And I feel good like I did it. But you didn't do it because you didn't do any marketing follow-ups. So you should have an elongated nurture. Someone came in the funnel. And when they went in the funnel, you sent them an email within 5 minutes saying someone will contact you or whatever it might be. Thank you for your interest. That was the email. And then they get into the random marketing emails you send sporadically whenever you feel like it. Don't do that. That's not good. What you want to do is you want to have an elongated nurture that when someone enters the funnel, what happens day 1? What happens day 5? What happens day 10? What happens day 599 if they didn't convert? And if they do convert, maybe they get then automatically put into another bucket where they then get an elongated customer nurture. If you have something that's like vitamins where people need to reorder every month, General Vitamin, take 30 a day, take 30 a day. That's a lot of vitamins, but take 1 a day for bone density, right? And I'm marketing seniors. Well, there's a lot you could do inherently with that and understanding where a senior might be, older baby boomer, that generation. They're probably on Facebook, right? So maybe I need to be advertising there. What websites might they be perusing? What interests might they have? Great. So I figured all that out. I'm sending them emails elongated. Now every month, right? About 10 days before the end of the month, I'm sending them reorder. And then I have a set show close here. So day 10, reminder to reorder. Day 10 before the close of the month. We're now in day 7. We got a week left. Are we going to send them one more email about reminder? If they don't close then we're going to send an LBO or a low barrier offer, which gives them save 50% off, save 20, buy one, get one BOGO, whatever your intentions are doing. But we're not giving them that offer right away, which is also a miss. A lot of people will just give that automatic offer, and that's expected. I wouldn't do that because you're bastardizing your brand. You would wait a couple until there's no engagement. So again, there are a lot of ways to go about working on your email marketing. I feel people do a great job of sending one-off emails, but you need to think about an elongated messaging, right? Nurture sequence. Social media. Oh, social media. So, 15 years ago, as a marketer, I would get, I got to be on Facebook. I got to be on Instagram. Maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I would get, what's up with this TikTok? I need to be on TikTok. Well, if you're an emergency response plumber, great. Your team is doing little dances and stuff, but you think that's going to get a lot of conversions for you, a lot of sales? Probably not, especially if you're in an industry like I do, rough and plumbing and for commercial applications. You think the decision maker is going to be there on TikTok, right? No, they're probably going to be on LinkedIn. You probably have to connect with them and engage with them. If they're in a certain age bracket, we always say that the baby boomer generation, they're going to be on Facebook, right? The millennial generation, they're going to be on Instagram. If you're younger than that, you're probably be on TikTok and some of these third-party ones. You have to know who you're going after. The largest demographic right now of people with disposable income is the millennial bracket. So that's why there's more interest in doing stuff, maybe YouTube, Instagram. And also I'm getting a large spike now in a lot more LinkedIn interest, right? So if you're a B2B, you probably want to have some type of strategy. If you're looking for a very specific decision maker, you want to be there on LinkedIn. And there's various different types of ads you could do on LinkedIn. I don't like the messaging ones. I like to be in the feed doing stuff and engaging and interacting. There's also, I'm talking about ads there, but there's also organic, and I always say with stuff, whether it be, tangible marketing, I could do a million things. The same thing with social media. For me, less is more. I'm more and more is more in terms of sending out stuff. So if I have 100,000 piece email list, right, but they're in various buckets, who cares? Send it all out. Send it out to everybody. If it's someone who's already a member, let them refer you. But in terms of social media, you have only a certain amount of bandwidth as a starting out business owner, right? So I can't be on TikTok and Pinterest and Instagram and LinkedIn because they all have their own different cadence and way of, like, Instagram, for example, you can't put, you have to put a link in bio. Facebook, you could put the link there in the messaging. Certain things work better for video. Certain things work better for imagery. Certain things work better for copy. Of course, like used to be Twitter with this older thing. I'm not going to go to X. It's always going to be Twitter for me. But you'll have for X or Twitter, you're going to be more copy driven, right? And it's going to be short and sweet. So it's not always the same. You're just constantly building content. You guys didn't get into business to be a content creator. You got into business to make money as an entrepreneur, right? And top level. So my advice always is figure out where your target audience lives, as we said in the first couple slides, and from there decide where that audience is going to be engaging the most platform-wise and devote your attention and time there. You can't do everything 100%. You have to pick a couple things, do it very well, post very often, think about ads. That's strategically how you should look at social media. All right, and the last little most important thing here is you got to give things time, man. That I told you that sign, that yard sign that people stick on there's this one company, they'll stick it on the phone, the telephone pole by a lot of companies, bigger companies like in the Hauppauge Industrial Court, where you'll see it'll say get to number one in Google. What is egress? Get to Google number one tomorrow. You're not going to do that. That's not going to happen. That's a lie. You have to give it time. And this is me as a seasoned marketer telling you have to give some things time. Now, I know there's a burn rate here. And as a small business, time usually leads to equity and money, right? So there are certain things we could do that aren't inherently a lot of money. Email marketing is a good example, right? You're not going to send out an email, an elongated nurture, and expect to get $100,000 in sales off of one email, right? Just starting out, especially if you have a small list. You have to give it time to build your list. You have to give it time to nurture and engage with your list, figure out what it is, what works, what doesn't work, headline-wise, right? The same is true with pay-per-click. It should be more instantaneous where you're getting leads, but sometimes you have to give it a little time for Google to learn and your pay-per-click specialist, whoever you're using or however you're doing that, you have to give them time to kind of learn the audience, learn the ebb and flow of what a click looks like versus a conversion, what keywords convert better than other ones, what ad messaging works better than others. With SEO, you certainly have to give that time. Usually if you're writing content and you're doing something for SEO, you have to plan out, okay, 2 months from now, I'm going to start to see some action or some traction, right? So when I think about content, a lot of times, right, I was writing content for winter back in September. I was already there thinking about Christmas and the holidays, unfortunately, while everyone was getting their last licks of summer in, right? Now I'm starting to think about spring again. So you have to be ahead of the curve there, and that will get you ahead of your competition, okay? So giving it time, understanding the timeline and the play, the objectives elongated is everything in terms of digital marketing. All right, again, I am Frank Corrao, Digital Marketing Manager at Active Web Group. I'll put my email address again in the chat. I'm always happy to listen to hear anything you have, whether if it's offline. But I'll look at the chat now, and then if anybody wants to raise their hand and speak, they can as well. All right, got some messages here. Let's X out of this. Okay. All right, they answered the question about the SBDC. Another SBC. How do I access Google Analytics to see engagement? Okay, so if you have to ask how to access it, it means you don't have it set up yet. So you need to go to analytics.google.com, get started, get the information filled out. There are tracking parameters that need to be filled out. So Google's not going to know that this button is my conversion button for contact us. What I usually do is I look at the contact us, and then there's a thank you page that happens, right? That thank you page link is gold for you, where you could start to track that way. But there's Tag Manager, Google Tag Manager, where you could tag events and triggers and give it a defined purpose. It starts to get a little complicated there. Again, that's when you probably need somebody who's more of an expert at it. But get started by getting Google Analytics and getting it installed on the back end of your website. Yes, I did connect. I condensed 4 years of 4 years of college and 20 years now. My profile's a little old. I got a little older, but about 20 years of doing this. Yeah, it was a lot, but I gave you a lot of everything. The problem is, you think about digital marketing and you get sold a bill of goods, especially small business, and that's not how I go about stuff. I see you raising your hand, Ed. That's not how I go about it. I will tell you like it is and what you need to do. The goal here, if you got anything out of this as an entrepreneur or a budding entrepreneur, is to know the vocabulary, the verbiage. What are platforms? What is this? What is that? I have someone promising me to give me the Brooklyn Bridge, right? You'll know now, okay, that's false. I'm just going to get my credit card billed and end up with nothing. So and I hate that, because as a digital marketer and being in a marketing agency for most of my career, I'll get the client who's the star-crossed lover who's worked with other agencies or people in the basement and just got sold BS, and it's not how it is. So again, if there's anything you're getting out of this, it's not to be a rock star SEO specialist. If it is, you should probably fill out a form or fill out an application. I'd love to work with you. But if it's not, then you should know and understand how this all works, so it doesn't sound like I'm speaking in gibberish or something. Okay. All right, Ed, I'm going to give you the floor here, Ed.
Yes. Hi, Frank. Thank you very much for your,
No problem.
it's always very useful, insightful. I just want to follow up on my question and the reason why I'm asking, because I have my own website that I've done for Wix.
Okay.
So Wix has its own analytics.
Sure, it
So,
does.
and I get it, I can access it real time, but it also I get emails. So
Yep.
this is why I'm asking about Google Analytics. What's the added value? Does it provide more information? And do I
Yes.
need to register my website on Google Analytics?
Also, yes. So Wix sites are a little tricky. So the CMS is Shopify is one of them, where they have a very bloated back end, a CMS, a management system where you could drag and drop things and make it easier for the end user yourself to build the website, right? But because of that, it's inherently a large site. Like, it's a lot of copy, a lot of code. Google and other search engines, and Google's not the only search engine, right? But most search engines don't like big bloated sites because they take forever to load. So it makes it trickier to try to rank organically for something. Just to back up and understand, aside from the frustrations and the limitations that some of those systems have, I hate Shopify in that they, not sponsored by Shopify, how they, but it does, again, I will say it's simplistic in a lot of ways and it does have advantages, as does Wix. But I hate to pay to play every little nuance. So as an entry level entrepreneur who's just getting started, oh, I have to pay a web developer, 3-4 grand for a site. I'll use Shopify and do it myself. But then you're paying $50 a month subscription for every little nuance of everything you need, and then it ends up costing you, plus the how much per sale you get, the percentage that they take. So it ends up costing you the same or more. And I hate that. I hate robbing a budding entrepreneur. You should understand really how the cost of their goods and services work. But when it comes to Wix, yes, they do have their own version of analytics. I never found it was accurate ever, never ever. So I always use Google Analytics because it will always track things appropriately, regardless of the what you're using. From email, if you're using MailChimp will tell you a story and sing you a song, so you spend more money there. The same thing with good old Zuckerberg. He'll tell you that you got 500 clicks, but that's not going to usually actually track, right? So usually I will use Google Analytics as the hub of all of my analytical reporting, and then see if there's discrepancy between other ones like Wix, etc. Hope that answered that. Okay, can I speak on Squarespace? I set up my website using that. All right, so it's very similar to Wix. Is one better than the other? I think Squarespace is a little cuter in their branding. They're everywhere, right? I think Wix has done a lot more with their Wix Studio in recent years, but very similar. I think Wix makes you pay to do stuff. So there's no Team Squarespace, Team WordPress, and custom. But there's not a lot of, again, customization here. You might not need that. If you're a photographer or you're trying to build a photography portfolio, get a Squarespace site. If you're somebody who has a more of you have a storefront, right? You're selling flowers, you're making flowers. Maybe Wix is a little better for you, but it's almost apples to apples in a lot of ways. I do agree, having been in the back end, that Squarespace can be a little bit more user intuitive, user friendly. I think the pay barrier is a little less. The one thing I absolutely hate about both of these CMSs is there's no dev site, no developmental website. So if you want to make a new theme and build a new iteration of your website, like a V2, you have to pay again, right? Like the $40 a month, I think it is for Wix for the Pro. I know the same is true for Squarespace. I just don't know the price. I think they go off a yearly billing model. But yeah, and I don't like that. You should have a developmental website to make changes and do things to your website that you're working, what we call a sandbox account, right? And then you could do stuff and work on it and then port it over to your live site, so you're never working on your site live. Because what happens if Google crawls the site or something's different, or you hand it off to a web developer and now they have to do things and you're not checking it till later. So love a developmental website if that could actually happen. And these two systems don't have that. Thank you so much for your extremely informative session. Yep. Thank you, doctor. It was, it's a lot, it's a whole lot. But what I want everyone again to understand is, if you don't have the who, what, when, why, how, you don't know where your users are coming from, this analytical conversation we're having, and you can't really define where your user is living, what they're searching for, how they're searching, how they're interacting, what time of day they might be engaging with you. If you can't figure that out, then there's no rhyme or reason to any of this. The great thing about digital marketing in our where we're at now is that everything is trackable. Everything you could ascertain an ROI. Every single cent can be accounted for. Where back 20 years ago, when that almost ready for retirement town crier lady used to come when I worked for a company, and she would say, "Here, you want to spend $5,000 on the cover of the Clipper magazine?" And I would say, "All right, I guess." And then because you only do covers, you don't do an interior thing, it's never going to get seen. And they would say it's a 100,000 piece circulation, which means 100,000 people are going to get their eyes on it. Is that true? Is like 50,000 pieces sitting on the corner collecting dust in the barbershop? Probably, probably. And it's very hard to you used to have the coupon, but people clip the coupons, and it was a nightmare back then. So where'd my $5,000 go? I don't know. I don't know. Now, if I was to spend $5,000, I spent $2,000 in Google Ads. I spent $1,000 in Meta Ads. I then spent $1,000 to work with an SEO specialist for a month or two, whatever the timeline would be, and then I spent $1,000 on some kind of third party, maybe link building or doing something like that. And then I'm able to look in Google to see what was the lead racehorse there, what made me the most money back, and then I could either double down on that, or I could say, okay, well, strategically, maybe I need to spend more elsewhere. Maybe Google, my cost per click was too high in ads, and I need to get that down. There's a lot of ways to go about looking at the data, but once you're able to get the data, that changes the game. All right. Do we have any more questions regarding web? What a website looks like? What's a clean website? What's not? To anything digital marketing? Yes.
Yes, I have a second question, Frank.
Sure.
Maybe it's a little bit beyond the scope of this webinar, but
That's
because
okay.
you know everything about digital marketing, so I do want to ask you about this, maybe your recommendation. So you did mention like social media, and one way I want to maybe promote my services is through like videos. So create
Okay.
my own videos and engage with the audience more directly, more interactively.
Yep.
Could you recommend, please, maybe some video apps that are like user-friendly for me, that I can use subtitles and create my own videos without outsourcing it?
So it depends on the platform. And I see you're raising your hand, Maureen. I'll get you next. Yeah, CapCut is pretty good. I see someone recommending that. There's the new AI driven one. There's plenty of tools out there for that could generate video. You could literally just Google AI video services. But a lot of them are already there in the CMS. So like Instagram, that's video centric. If you have like a link or something, you could put it in there, or if you had copy that you specifically wanted to do. But if you have something that needs to be more on brand and professional based, that's not like the black box or whatever, then you could do it with some of these third parties. There's everything from professional ones like Final Cut. Apple has their own video service. Adobe has Premiere, and then there's all the ones that are related to AI. So there's a lot out there. It just really comes to budget and time and energy versus learning. But you also want to think about your platform first. Like, again, where is my target audience and how much time do I actually want to spend with the video stuff? All right. Maureen, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi. How do I change my website all the time? I built my own website with WordPress, and it was a steep learning curve, and I kind of cried myself to sleep every night and tore my hair out, and was very happy when I got it done. And so, what do I do to change it all the time, which I really don't want to do? It's got a blog feature which I haven't used, like.
Change. I think you broke up for a second. What was the thing you're using to change? Any changing?
A blog it's got a blog feature that
Yeah.
would take a lot of time if I did that, but is that the kind of thing you're talking about, or just change out the pictures, or what do I change all the time on my
What
website?
platform? I'm sorry, I missed the platform.
It's a WordPress.
WordPress.
It's a
Oh, it's a WordPress
WordPress
site. Okay,
hosted
great.
by SiteGround.
Yeah, a WordPress, you're already off to the on the right track there. The thing about WordPress is the end user has to know a little bit more, has to be a little bit more of a web designer than you would with like Wix or Squarespace or some of that.
Which
But
I'm not.
yeah, the end result though could be a lot better for you in terms of ranking versus another platform, another CMS or platform. Now, blogs
Yeah.
are important, right? What are blogs? Why have blogs? Why do people do blogs? For SEO purposes, right? I
Yeah.
don't write a blog, and I have copywriters, actual copywriters, and they actually write lots of content. I probably have 20 things to review today in my inbox regarding copy. The whole point of it is not to get somebody to read all about something. It's to get a Google bot to rank and index us accordingly. So you have to think about your
Oh, wow.
keywords. You have to think about your keywords, again, going back, looking at your competition, your target audience, what keywords make sense. And there's some fool's gold in terms of keywords. So, there might be something that has a high search volume, like 100,000 people view it a month, right? But it's not my proper decision maker or the right person I'm going after. I see a lot with talking about CMSs in the chat. I'll get to that too. But you with the blogs, the purpose of writing a great blog, if you want to get your information out there and leverage it for social media, LinkedIn, etc. Fantastic. Agreed on that. We also should be considering, can I get a keyword into the headline? Can I get a keyword? How many keywords should I put into the body of copy? There's called keyword gap analysis, right? A TDFI scan, where you're looking at their website and seeing how many times should I use a keyword to get it to index or rank properly. So it's a science. It's not fool's
So
gold.
it might actually read weird with all those keywords.
It could read weird, yeah, but for my
To a human?
purpose, it's not for a human, right? For
Okay.
you, it might be for a human. You want to get a newsletter out and you want to get your brand focused forward. When you're doing your blog for WordPress, though, there are plugins, right, that you could get specifically to make it easier for you to write a blog. I don't know what editor you're using. There's Bakery, there's Elementor, which I'm more of a fan of Elementor. Those make it easier for you to drag and drop and write stuff. So see what your version of WordPress, what your theme is using, what it's built on, and then from there are ways to definitely go about
Plugins.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Does
if you have
does
any questions, I'm happy to quickly show you how to get to it. You could always feel free to email me.
Oh, thank you. So any change on the website is what Google is looking for? Swapping out one picture for another?
No,
Anything?
as long as you're tagging a titles tag, meta description, there's areas for that on your CMS you're using, whether it be again Bakery, any of those Elementor. So you'll make sure again there's keyword research and stuff, but you could start to make some inherent guesses. If you're not ready to go down that rabbit hole yet of what people may be searching for, Google yourself, search around, see who's ranking for something and how it's being executed. And then from there, you could start to dive into that.
All right,
But again,
thanks.
if you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer them. WordPress again, a little bit more complicated, but I personally, as a professional, I think it's worth its weight in gold versus some of these other CMSs. Anthony,
Thank you.
Oh,
no problem.
hi.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Hey, thank you so much, Frank. Great seminar. I love what you're talking about. Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what was just said about WordPress that I think nobody has touched upon. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, WordPress is the spirit and of open source. Okay, so one of the things I think people don't realize, because when an entrepreneur is just starting their business, they're kind of like in a rush to make, not in a rush, but they're very anxious about making that website, so they want to get it up. So, tools just like you said, Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, all of those platforms offer you that benefit to quickly get something up there, right? But honestly, there are certain types of designs and certain types of workflows that are not are more easily or can only be made through a platform like WordPress because of the nature of it, because it's very flexible and modular, and it's like Lego. And I'd like to say that WordPress can be thought of as the difference between like a smartphone and a DSLR camera. Smartphones can take incredibly good pictures, but DSLR camera has its place in the market. So you have to kind of choose where you're at. And then the last thing I'm going to say is one of the things you realize is Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, they actually own your design, because when
Yes.
you decide to leave, guess what? You're going to have to make a brand new website wherever you go from scratch. Of course, you can pull down the articles and the graphics, but the layout and the interactions and all that, they will stay with that original host. By contrast, when you're in a site, when you're using a product like WordPress, you actually own it's the spirit of open source. You own the design, you own everything. At any point you can export it, pull it down, and go to a standard web hosting anywhere in the world, and there's no questions asked. It's just that, to me, that's what makes it so special in the market. It's not for everybody.
Correct. Yeah. Well said. I was going to get to that in the chat. Thank you. Thank you for the points. Yeah, exactly. And I understand where we're with WordPress. Even you get to more customized, like custom enterprise Magento, which we're not even talking about any of that today. But when you get to the WordPress level, you could, again, sky's the limit in terms of branding, right? For not a lot of dollars versus the Wix site or the Shopify site. And as I said, I find having been on the getting people integrated with our web team. We have a full in-house web team, working with them to make sure that their website ranks while they're building a new website. At the end of the day, Shopify, I can't really speak to Wix and Squarespace, but with a Shopify website, a lot of times you end up spending within a given year, a fiscal year, the same amount you would have had a more customized website. So with all the plugins and the amount that Shopify takes from you and the whatchamacallit at the cart, so the payment gateway. So yeah, you gotta look at those avenues as well. Does it make sense? There are, again, if you're like a budding photographer, yes, go get a Squarespace site. Great, that works really good. Just know that there's going to be limitations in design, limitations in ranking, things of that nature. Okay, I had no experience yet. Maybe I'm sure. Trying to read all these guys. Great commentary on WordPress. Yes, I agree. Again, if you're starting out, less is more. Let me go back to the grassroots of this, because the purpose of it is not to tell you to get a WordPress website. The purpose of this as budding entrepreneurs or people just starting out, right? Thinking about their business and their objectives is, what can I do with as little dollars as possible? So if you have to build a Squarespace or one of those sites today, fantastic. Just know what you need to do a year, 3 years, 5 years from now. Have something that's scalable, just scalability in your business model. If your intentions are selling internationally as an e-commerce juggernaut, Squarespace probably ain't going to be your long-term solution. So you have to keep that in mind. And the last component I will say about the websites overall is you want your entire ecosystem to communicate to one another. So if you have a CRM, right, very specific CRM that doesn't communicate with your service, WordPress open source, you can get it to communicate with just about everything. But if like Wix doesn't communicate with your CRM and it doesn't communicate with your payment hosting and this and that, then you're creating SOP headaches for yourself, and you don't want to do that. So make sure everything integrates, works seamlessly together.
So I was going through the questions. I'm not sure if you answered a question from Justin about his experience with Metapixel.
Sure. And they're doing
Justin,
away
are
with
you
that.
on?
Trying to find that.
Hi, Gifty. Yeah, thanks
Hi,
for bringing that
Justin.
up. I put
Right,
it in the
in
chat.
the chat.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
I can briefly speak to it if that helps.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I created my first, Metapixel, and I got an email like a couple days later saying, "Oh, there's some restrictions on your account because you were classified as being in the financial industry." And
Yeah.
I have a tax prep firm. We do
Yep.
taxes. So usually when I fill out like what industry I'm in for tax prep, I usually choose professional services because
Yep.
it is slightly different from financial industry. They're cousins, but they're definitely different. So I tried appealing, but the only way to appeal was to like press a button, and I
Yep.
couldn't even write anything in a text box. And so then their review came back another day later and said,
Okay.
"Nope, we still consider you to be financial industry." So should I still try to appeal this? And is there another way to appeal it, or is it no big deal and I just roll with it and whatever?
Sometimes it's like shouting at the sky or trying to speak to the Wizard of Oz. Even at agency level, I have somebody that now I can, if shoot me an email, I'll put it here one more time. If my social media team can help you anyway, I'd love to. But the good old Pixel, they're doing away with that anyway. So I understand for tracking purposes, your best bet is to make sure your link works and have a special thank you page. That's a good workaround where you can still be able to track. Because if someone filled out a form, right, unless you have a call campaign, that's so backing up. Mark Zuckerberg, he does a really good job here at keeping people on his platforms, right? He doesn't want you to leave and go to your website. But me as a marketer, I want to get that attention. I don't want you to see what cousin Jimmy is doing, right? He had fireworks at his barbecue or something. I don't want that. I want you to go to my website and engage with my brand. I don't want you to get sidetracked with your ADHD. But that's not what Facebook wants. That's not what Meta wants. So they sometimes ding you for that. But nonetheless, if you have a campaign that's clicking through to your website, right? If it's a form submission, you can use a special thank you page to track backwards in analytics. That's some of the workaround because the Pixel sometimes doesn't fire. They're doing API now. So This is a good example with the WordPress. WordPress integrates. There are certain services. I know Wix doesn't integrate. Shopify, Squarespace might. I know Shopify does. But they're trying to make it more API call that it will automatically connect and give you the click rather than using the pixel. The pixels doesn't fire sometimes. But going backwards, funny, I have the same problem, the exact same problem when I run ads. I run certain ads in financial sectors, or I have a big, they're a large piano manufacturer without saying their name, international, and they sell $250,000 plus pianos, right? And they offer financing. Now, because they offer financing, in the message it said "Save big, special financing." I'm discriminatory, right, for people who can't get the financing because they don't have good credit. So because I'm being discriminatory, they have to put me in a special ad category, and there's no way of getting out of that. Because you're in the financial sector, you're going to be discriminatory as well, no matter what you do. There's no way around it. So that's why I would say you could try, but I guarantee you're going to keep getting beat up. There are other places, depending on who you are and what your business model looks like. Like if you're professional tax, if you're for the consumer versus you do corporate tax. So you think about that, and maybe you could look elsewhere, right, in terms of marketing.
Hey, thanks, Frank.
No problem. I'm blocked on running ads. I think it's a meta glitch. I need somebody to help untangle this. The Meta Business Center is a nightmare. Yeah, it's a big nightmare. I mean, that's why it took me a long time at agency level to get like an expert over at Meta. You have to really be super special. I have that now, and it's still sometimes I'll get on the phone with them, we'll get on the call, and they still don't answer the question properly. Meta has really horrible customer service in tandem with Google, which has pretty good customer relations with when you're running ads. With Meta and running Meta ads, yeah, it's hit or miss. It's going to depend a lot. If you're blocked, it's hard to get unblacklisted. I'd have to see what you did. Couldn't make it. Yeah. They don't need to. The billion, million, $1 trillion company they are, but you would think they'd want to help you more and get you to spend more money. But it's again, that's my my email address if you have any questions regarding social stuff. Yeah, but it can be done. But we got to look under the hood, see what's going on with that brandy. And again, it might not be the right solution for you. I find that sometimes the CPC is a lot higher with social media. Could you potentially get more conversions? Yeah, I don't fully love, and this is me speaking indirectly here. You didn't hear this from me, but I don't fully love some of the tracking. We talked about that with Meta. I don't fully love sometimes the limited customization in terms of targeting that you have versus working in other ad platforms. So, but your target audience might be there. So it's it's an evil sometimes you might have to fight. We're still talking about Squarespace here. All right. Does anyone have any other questions for me, marketing wise, web wise, whatever they want to speak on? This is my last of the two presentations. I'm more than happy to give future presentations on stuff. I know there's a lot of questions about various topics. Also drilling in further to some topics like SEO, pay-per-click, etc. Social media advertising seems to be a hot one here with this group, or web platforms, one versus another. But again, this will be my last discussion of the year. So if anyone has anything, feel free to go to activewebgroup.com. Find me fcorrao at activewebgroup.com. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to help small business out.
All right. Thank you so much, Frank. It's been wonderful. I'm glad you came to talk to us. I hope everyone got a lot of value. I know I did. Lots and lots to learn. Thanks again. So after the workshop closes out, you'll receive a survey. Please take a moment to fill it out. Give us feedback. We want more of this in the future, and your feedback actually helps us a lot. It's important. And there was a question about if the tape would be available, the recording of this webinar. So I believe so, but maybe Keisha, if you're on, or Kayla, I believe it takes about 2 weeks or so for it to be ready and put on the website. But they can confirm that. Normally that would be the practice. Right, Frank? It's you're willing for us to put it on our
Yep,
website?
absolutely. Again, anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out.
Right. Okay, so thank you again. Thanks everyone for attending this workshop. most of all, thank you, Frank. You
No
did a
problem.
fantastic job. We learned a lot. We all enjoyed it. And we appreciate all the information you gave us today.
No problem. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.